didn't write your resume, but civil rights made somebody read your resume. This issue is not just about what they did to this president of Harvard University, who is the first black woman to be president. It's about they used her as a scapegoat to fight DEI. We would not have to have DEI if we didn't have DENY. We would deny. DEI was to make up for the denial historically of blacks, of women, of gays, of Latinos, and Asians. This man decided that he would stand up and say that taking out Dr. Guy is the beginning of taking out DEI. I want to come to his office and let him know that we will fight him. We said nothing when the fight was at Harvard, but now he's declared war against all of us. Civil rights didn't write your resume, but civil rights made somebody read your resume.
We're out here for the fight for this year. Yeah. This is our first time for this year. And although it's cold, weather the storm, we're still out here. So I want to present you all with something for this year to take with you all so you'll think about this all day. Every day is a new day and better than the day before. Thank God for his blessings of giving us one day more. If you woke up this morning, no matter how you feel, thank God, because God is real.
Amen. God is real.
All right, well, the next one, Reverend Ernest Waters. Oh, we love it. If our line leaders get in position as we begin again to chant, I just want to continue to urge you to bring somebody out on each Thursday because, again, the fight is not stopping. If you got to buy new shoes for this year just to march in, I say make the investment. Make the investment because we are marching on the front lines. And this is not the type of warfare where we exclude people. What I'm trying to say is bring your wheelchair, bring whatever you got to. But we got to continue to march until we see this building not stand up as proud as it stands. We're going to continue to tell everybody on the block what kind of bigot company this is. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Justice.
When do we want it?
Now.
If we don't get it, shut it down. If schools don't get it, shut it down. If the jobs don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it,
Shut them down.
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 If we don't get it,
Shut them down.
if we don't get it.
Welcome to the Gilchrist experience. Ron, you see that that's a year's difference in the two videos. The first one was Reverend Sharpton in January of last year. And this one was the second one. And the one we did last week was the 63rd video. Rally, I mean. And what do you got to say about yourself? You're hanging in there, my man.
Hey,
Good job. A well-deserved reward of, thank you, brother.
Well, thank you. Thank you
You're
for coming
really
out
doing
in the
a
cold.
fantastic
Thank you for coming
job.
out in the heat.
For
We're continuing.
DEI.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Can you hear me?
Barely. It's a whisper.
Oh, whisper.
There you go.
Okay, it's better?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's always a pleasure to be a part of the Gilchrist experience with such handsome, well-dressed men talking about our issues. Unfortunately, it has been 63 weeks. We had hoped that when we first started that a lot of this foolishness would not persist, but it has. It has taken hold of our government. It has taken a hold of the billionaires. It has poisoned the minds of those that just don't understand this country. We've been fighting for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Some have made it to be something where it is now a culture war. And we know that we didn't necessarily start with this. We know that they first came after the word woke. I don't know if you guys remember when woke was a problem. Then they came after Black history. That was a problem. Then they came after CRT. That was a problem. Then they came after DEI, and we've been at the place of where it started, where the fight was rampant, of where Bill Ackman, a billionaire, decided to go against the Harvard president, who was the first Black female president of Harvard University. And he said she was a DEI hire, and then we're going to go after DEI. So we've been there for a full year, and we've seen billionaires acquiesce to this sort of unsound doctrine of about. So the reasons why we have DEI programs in this country is because of discrimination. They discriminated against groups of people. A lot of people don't understand that DEI programs work. Joe Biden implemented DEI programs throughout his administration, and we saw progress in data.
Loud
We saw
out
the
there.
wealth gap
I hear it better
reduce.
out there.
And so, with that happening, then we've seen the widespread attacks on DEI because of what it was doing. The fact that DEI companies that had DEI are rolling back are a huge issue, like Target and others, because during the George Floyd movement, many of these companies, because of the data that came out with the health disparities and others, said that we want to do something to shorten the gap between minorities and opportunity. So they took up these DEI programs. They promised that they would sow investments because of some of the practices of the industries, that their eyes were open during the DEI, during the George Floyd movement. Now we're witnessing a backlash. These same companies that said we're going to promise all of this, that didn't fulfill what they said they were going to do, have now declared war on DEI. So we at the National Action Network have been leading the fight in the sense that we have had over a year of demonstrations outside at 787 11th Avenue, but we've also done boycotts, and we're getting ready to do a boycott. And what do I say to those who are growing tired and saying, "Yo, it's over a year and a half. What are you doing?" I'm going to say, do what Dr. King said. Dr. King reminded us to, by all means, keep moving. Right? There are moments where you feel tired. There are moments where you want to give up. There are moments where the adversary seems like it has all its cards in its hand. It seems like when injustice is winning, it seems like hatred is winning. It seems that inequality is winning. It seems that all kinds of things that should not be winning in this day and age are coming against us. But I encourage us to don't stop moving. We've seen this fight before. We've overcome slavery. We've overcome Jim Crow. We've overcome the black codes. We built a Black Wall Street during a time of segregation. We can do this. So as Dr. King said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, he said, then crawl. He says, but by all means, keep moving. We got to keep moving to get across the finish line. Progress does not come in by just standing around. Change does not happen through silence, and justice does not roll in on the wheels of an inevitability, as Dr. King said. It comes through persistence, it comes through struggle, it comes through consistency, it comes through courage, it comes through a determined heart. It comes from an attitude to refuse to not give in, from an attitude to refuse to not give up. We must not accept the status quo, even though they have now outlawed DEI programs. We've come too far now. We've heard this before, to now go back. We face the dogs. We face the fire hose. We face the jail. We faced the hatred of the 60s. We faced this for hundreds of years through their prejudice practices, but we still found a way to move forward. So let no one tell us that our voice does not matter. It doesn't matter if it's a billionaire named Bill Ackman, or if it's a billionaire named Donald Trump, or if it's a billionaire named Elon Musk. We
Mm-hmm.
must be understand that our power, that our ability to dream is too big, and that it could stand up to these billionaires. We have to walk with the dignity that our ancestors fought for and gave us, to never stop pressing forward, the mark towards freedom, the mark towards justice. So I urge everyone that is listening to this program that no matter the trials, no matter what you see in the news, that we
Mm-hmm.
can win in this dark night. We just have to fight through the night until we
Mm-hmm.
see the morning.
Thank you, Ron. I needed that. I needed your sermon this morning. I mean, this evening. Because I listened to Schumer and, what's happening now. And Zelensky being tortured to death by Putin and Trump. We're in a hell of a hole. I mean, this is madness. These are the times when we need to hear a sermon like such as what you just gave to us. You're the youth. You're the hope and the future. Because I sat down like an old man watching this morning, and just I felt all the pain. I felt all the negative energy. I said, this devil is getting us down. I mean, I really had a down heart this morning. But you just inspired me now. Now I know there's hope, and you give me a glitter of, I see the joy in you. And the last couple of years we've been doing programs. I need your energy. And thank you, brother.
Amen.
You know,
Being you.
and thank you for all that you guys do. I see Graham sitting there, Mr. Graham, and you, the Gilchrist experience. You guys have seen the '60s. I wasn't around. I just read about it. You always beat me up that you know more than me because you lived it. And we've come through worse times than this. Unless you're saying you haven't seen anything like this.
But see, the 60s, we learned from the lessons of mistakes we made back then. I mean, the leaders that made mistakes. I mean, we saw that Martin and Malcolm fighting each other, for which route to go. Attacking Christians and naming us as the white.
Yeah.
We got the slave master's religion. And the brainwashing of white supremacy, light and dark. We all suffer from that now. But to see Nazism, Elon Musk sitting there giving a Nazi salute, which the world was against at one time. I mean, the world knew a Hitler. Now we get a Hitler Jr. in the White House? That's what Trump is about. He's a gangster. He's a mafioso. This is Trump's mafia. He's setting us up to hate.
So when I begin to read history is so powerful. Where do I get some of this energy from? When I read the fact that when we talk about the racism that has always existed in this country, but specifically during the civil rights movement, where we saw that the South had the Jim Crow segregated South, that basically we couldn't sit at the same lunch counters as white people. We had to sit at the back of the bus. We were denied equal access to accommodations.
That was down south. It wasn't
and that was
in the
down
north.
south. And then you had your own racism here up north,
We see
right?
that too.
So we up here we had wolves in sheep clothing. We still have that today. And so when I began to study the movement, one of the key things that Dr. King talked about, he worked with a guy by the name of Dr. Leon Sullivan. I don't know if you've heard of him before. Dr. Leon Sullivan was key because he added a different dynamic to the fight. His focus was more fundamentally changing the laws to ensure equal protection when it comes to financial gain. So Dr. Sullivan stressed using economic power and the dollar to create change within the system, right? So this is what he really brought to Dr. King. They weren't competitors. They were both friends. They both complemented each other. So Dr. Sullivan led the boycott on Wonder Bread back in the 60s. We all know Wonder Bread. And he was able to boycott Wonder Bread and other corporations to demand that more black truck drivers be incorporated. And we've seen this also here in Harlem with Adam Clayton Powell, where he boycotted out Con Edison and other companies to make sure that our people got jobs. When we seen all of this work in the 60s, we're just repeating it. So if we beat it then, we know that we can beat it now. And based on the stock market crashing, guess what? The boycott is working. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Sullivan, during in the 60s, brought this sort of plan to, because he ran a company or an organization by the name of Opportunities Industrialization Center, so OIC. Mm-hmm. And he brought this to Dr. King, and this is what Dr. King used as his blueprint for Operation Breadbasket. Mm. And we know Operation Breadbasket is huge because there were a couple of chapters. Jesse Jackson ran it. William Augustus Jones also ran it, which was Rev's pastor. And we know that they also boycotted through the breadbasket AMP. And so we know that we can take down these billionaires because we've done it before.
Put your hands down. We're getting a good shot of your hands. Put your hands down.
No, you got to put your hands up in a fight now. Don't put your hand. That's how you got to hit your chin.
But you're blocking your face.
Huh?
You're blocking your face.
I'm blocking it from the enemies. Well, we got to swing left. We got to swing right. We got to keep the movement alive. We got to give them an uppercut. We got to keep this going.
You know, he mentioned Reverend Bill Jones, and there were some great pastors, Canaan Baptist, Wyatt T. Walker.
What you got?
Bill Jones was a big man. He was about 6'5", and he said to me once, he said, when we were in Cicero, and he had a deep voice, you know, Witherspoon, when I was with Martin and Martin prayed, I never closed my eyes. I wanted to know what was going on. And he carried a snub-nosed .38 with him at all times. He said, Martin was nonviolent, but I wasn't going down. I wasn't going to take a 10 count. Mm-hmm. But there were over 100 men and women that birthed into the ministry through his ministry in Brooklyn. In addition to Reverend Sharpton, and those ministers and pastors are across the nation right now. Reverend Milton Galamison of Brooklyn was another. Sandy Ray.
Single shot.
Wyatt T. Walker, I had already mentioned, from Canaan Baptist on 116th Street. All of these men worked to advance civil rights in this country. And you had great leaders in the labor movement who worked with Martin, the March on Washington, the Pullman Porters and such. There was a collective army of Negro people at that time. And it was about one thing, advancing the people. It wasn't about my group, your group. No, it was a collective movement of people that came from across the African diaspora to advance civil rights and human rights. And we have to be very clear. This history, yesterday, Trump was erasing the history of the Navajo men.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Who in World War II broke the German code.
Yeah, I heard that.
Navajos, not white men.
Yeah, yeah.
Not smart white men.
Yeah.
But Navajo men. The first people, they broke the German code in World War II to save the lives of millions of people. And this man is erasing their contribution from the National Archives.
It's amazing.
We need to understand and recognize racism for what it is. The notion that erasing DEI is going to or what they call reverse racism. It's not reverse. In order to be racist, you have to be a person of power and control other people's well-being. That's not what we do. We can barely control our own selves. But we need to understand
Call it
how
what it
racism
White
is working.
supremacy. White supremacy.
And these people are no different than the Dixiecrats that were in the government in the 50s, lynching black people, preventing black people
They're
from
worse
voting,
than them.
having schools, and this is another thing, they intend to do away with public education or minimize it as well as possible. They talk about, and you need to understand the terminology because white people have a double speak. They'll say, we're downsizing. No, they're laying off and firing people. The war theater. War is not a theater. It is life and death. There is no curtain call in war. You don't have a chance to rehearse and retake and come back and do it again. When a bullet hits you, a 7.62 NATO round hits you, you're dead. But this vocabulary that they use, and you need to understand it. They're talking about parents should have a choice, the right to choose where their child goes to school. They're saying, we want to go back to the days when we had those private white schools, where the quote-unquote Christian schools, where your black child would not be going, to be funded. Those schools where they would never teach about the Navajo, the Lakota, the Blackfoot, the Choctaw, the Apache, they would never talk about the struggle and the anguish of American slavery. And we need to understand very clearly what this man from South Africa is about, what his father was about in South Africa. His citizenship starts in South Africa. His second citizenship is Canadian, and the United States is third. And we need to understand clearly who these people are and
White
what
supremacy.
they're about.
It's white supremacy.
And if our people and decent people, period, don't rise up, we are going to be going 100 years back in time. Very quickly.
How do we solve the problem?
So
We know the problem is deep and heavy, and well, we got a president that we know is delusional. He's trying to prove that everything he's done in the past is right, and he's got the weapons to use to do it. And what is he doing to us? We're stuck in a corner, and he's throwing darts at us to anger us, to bring out the hatred. He's doing everything to just mess with us. I mean, every day there's a new game that he's playing. He's playing Monopoly. Now the shutdown would have been, now let's update ourselves. We know the racism in the Dixiecrats of old, but the Dixiecrats had some sort of compassion. You know, they were better slave masters or white supremacists than the days. You could show where a cracker was wrong, and he might change himself. He was more fair-minded than the cracker of today or the white supremacist of today. The Hitler attitude, that's what we got from Elon Musk. Hitler. I mean, they have no conscience at all. And it's baffling to people in the Democratic Party. They're too busy playing fair and fighting amongst each other. And he knows how to play the game. He knows how to get us at each other. Now this shutdown, now Chuck Schumer did the best thing of the two evils. Now let's explain the shutdown. The shutdown, if they shut it down, Trump was waiting for that. He taught us how to hate him, and we'll shut him down. We'll get him. And he had set a trap for us. That was a trap. Shut down the government, and how do you get it back up? He has to approve it.
Right.
To get it back up. Now, in those 6 months it was shut down, what could he have done? He could have declared martial law. This stuff with the burning of the Tesla cars, he's named that as a domestic terrorism. Now, what if the government was shut down? We only have the courts left as a defense.
And that's questionable.
Well,
I shouldn't say that.
Lucky
they are,
Roberts came up and
right.
said something sensible.
Yes.
Because it was too crazy to impeach a judge. So
And they
you had
said-
judges sticking up for judges. Look at it. Look at the game they're playing.
Right.
They push us to the point that we're fighting amongst each other. And they love it. Who's burning up the Tesla cars? The Proud Boys? Now, if the government sat down, that would have been a great reason for him to declare martial law. And you think we got a dictator now with a shutdown government and him having to approve opening it up again? He wouldn't approve of anything. We've been shut down forever. So if Schumer did anything right, he did that right. But what did he do wrong? He got on all the shows and started promoting his book. Ha! This sucker gets on, instead of anti-Semitism. If you want to talk about anti-Semitism, where it comes from the genocide of Gaza. Netanyahu. He's the one that brings everybody back to being. Look at all the Israelis that protested about him. That's what gets me so angry. He gets on a show and starts promoting a book about anti-Semitism, and he doesn't explain where it came from. It comes from him killing all those Palestinians. That's where it comes from.
You know, you've hit that on the head, and we need to be clear that speaking against a Jew is not anti-Semitism.
Especially Netanyahu.
When you are moving diametrically against any biblical or humane principle, you are what you are. Netanyahu, they knew about the attack a year before the attack.
That's right.
When I was in Abu Dhabi 6 years ago, I passed a building, and I think I told you about this building, and it's shaped like a coin on its edge. It's 102 stories high. NOS, go and look it up. NOS, an Israeli company, was hired by the Emiratis to monitor all the cell phones in the country. And when I was there, my phone, like anybody else's phone, was being monitored, and it was the Israelis monitoring all the cell phones for the Emiratis. That same company is right there in Israel. They're Israelis. So there's no way in the world that the Palestinians can be on their phones and planning something and the Israelis didn't know it. Just as they were blowing up their beepers because they put detonation charges in those devices and sold them to the Palestinians. So who are the people? Who are the people? Yes, granted, the attack that took place could have been prevented. So Netanyahu's government allowed it to go down so that he can save his neck to look like the hero, and then they turn around and bomb every single building in Gaza. So there's nothing for the people to return, and you hear Trump talking about, oh, we're coming in there, and we're going to turn this into the Riviera of the Middle East and make money. And in addition to the fact that there's natural gas and oil in Gaza.
Now, how much hate does that bring out into everybody?
It's all about theft. Kill people, steal their land, and take their resources.
And
that's the same dynamic that was used here by these same people in this government. And Ben Franklin said that this was a great white land in the 1700s.
But what about the younger people that don't understand the past or know nothing about the history? They just have their lives, the American dream.
Well, that's the dynamic.
Knowing about all the fairness that can be done in the principles of America. They've been hypocritical all our lives.
They still are.
White supremacy.
But the people don't understand it because they have a cell phone, they have cable TV, and they're watching sports. See.
I am superior to, and they're afraid because they're outnumbered nowadays. Now look at the desperation of white people. Look how desperate they are. If they know anything about their history, it brings a guilt thing to them. Today they can say, oh, I had nothing to do with slavery. But yet a Hitler can get in there with a lot of money and say, this is the way we should be.
Mm-hmm.
I have white people telling me, no, we have nothing to fear. We have nothing to fear. He's for white people. And then he goes out and fires all these white people.
Well, they're learning.
He lies to everybody. Can't they see through this animal, demonic force? That's simple. It's to explain them.
If you don't have a spiritual base, you'll be confused. All right? Scripture says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the manifestation of all of that.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that we need divine intervention.
Right. Exactly.
We have to do what we can do, but the divine intervention has to take place. And we have to summon that divine intervention just as they have summoned the demonic forces that they're using.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
you mentioned about martial law. Very true. In the book, Behold the Pale Horse. Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper. I knew William Cooper. And he talked about stuff in that book in the 1990s that is reality today. Everybody said he was a conspiracy theorist and all that stupidness. He wasn't. But what he says that would happen in the government when FEMA takes over the government and martial law is imposed, what you went to is exactly what he wrote. Because when martial law is invoked, the only person who can draw it back is the President of the United States. And the U.S. Congress would have been suspended under martial law.
That's right.
So you would have had nothing. And these guys have said, we don't care what the judges said. Now here you have judges giving edicts. They're giving instructions, and the president and his lackeys are saying, we don't care. So if they don't have to obey the law, what does the general public have to do? This is invoking anarchy and chaos.
Exactly. They're teaching you to hate, and you start bombing cars. If it is us, I'd be doing now, I mean, if I got fired from a government job, you join the government for life.
Right.
I mean, that's a civil servant. I mean, you're gung-ho. It's like joining the Marine Corps. Step of fire all the way. I mean, and if you're honorable and you're doing something right and you're helping people, what better way to be an American?
Black
That's the
people
American
are dying because of US aid being shut
they're
down.
stopping that.
All right?
They're stopping that.
But how many
They're
thousands
stopping
have
that.
died over these
No.
days? That's the
But
thing.
at least they're stopping. See,
Yeah.
we don't have martial law. The government hasn't been shut down. Now we still have the law to make them show the people that voted for them that they're not following any of the rules. None of the rules. They're just taking over, and they got this nut with a chainsaw on television saying, yeah, I cut you down. And did you see him on television today? He was saying these people are hateful. They're burning up my cars. And Trump wants to call them domestic terrorists. So the game is on. They're playing their game. And be careful. Here, we're going to show Hakeem Jeffries at let's see how my man, Hakeem, you still there, Ron? Did we lose Ron?
Yes, we did.
All right, just run the roll in two, and we'll come right back to you.
Mr. Jeffries, I know that you and Chuck Schumer issued a joint statement a while ago.
Can't hear.
Supporting this Medicaid Day of Action, so there's unity on this. But Mr. Schumer actually was on CBS this morning, and he was talking about his controversial decision to let the continuing resolution go forward. And what he said today was sort of interesting in that he said that he was told by a Republican senator that if they didn't do this bill, that there would be a shutdown of government between 6 and 9 months, and that the damage that the Republicans could do in terms of furloughing people and stopping this economy could be devastating. So I wonder if now, and after the dust is cleared and the smoke is cleared, if you can somehow see his logic in the decision that I know you didn't like about his decision to try to let the government go forward.
Well, You know, as House Democrats, we stand by our decision to oppose the Republican spending bill because the partisan Republican spending bill that was not negotiated with Democrats, it was written by Donald Trump and House Republicans, would hurt families, hurt veterans, and hurt seniors. It would cut health care, cut veterans benefits, and cut nutritional assistance from children and families all across America, including in the communities that Congresswoman Clark and I represent. So that was not an acceptable thing for us. Our view was that the choice was between voting down the partisan, reckless Republican spending bill and then forcing Republicans to explain why they were unwilling to accept a 4-week spending agreement that would simply allow Democrats and Republicans to try to arrive at a spending bill that would meet the needs of the American people. It was the Republicans' choice, in our view, to potentially shut down the government, and they would have to explain that to the American people.
If I could just follow up, if you could just tell us how you feel about Chuck Schumer's decision to do what he did and the fact that he continues to take incoming bullets day after day after day and it hasn't stopped. Is that right? Is it wrong? And do you support his leadership of the Senate?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Yes, I do.
Now we have to realize this is us, Hakeem Jeffries. He stands up for us. He's a brother. He understands the problems that we're having. We know his family very well. We know, my buddy, my real true brother, Jeffries, and Rosalind Jeffries is a queen. And we've had him on the show several times. You realize that's what's his first?
Dr. Leonard Jeffries.
Dr. Leonard Jeffries. This is his nephew, mind you. So this man has a history of blacks, of African people, and which we have some knowledge of. But it's knowing yourself, knowing what kind of people you truly are. Through the 400 years we've suffered, but we're a loving people. It's in our nature to be shucking and jiving, or being honorable, and we go through all the different avenues of being human. But we have heart, have soul, God-centeredness. I say this I should start off shows by saying the God in me loves the God in you. And that's the essence of being human. Now, we have to understand we're fighting against a demon. These are devils. So you have to bring out your God center and don't hate. And it's hard as hell to do that because I'm having a tough time not hating them. I like everybody else, I'm ready to really go to battle. But this has to be done smartly because they want us to fight physically. We have to fight mentally. We have to get our own minds together. We have to control our anger and be smart about what we do and stop fighting amongst each other. Democrats and Republicans, all humans have to unite against this demonic force. That's what it's about. Whoa. If you're human, you should want to be human. And this man is, you can see it yourself. If you can't see it, then you got too much devil in you. So, I guess you go along with the program. He's got all the money. What can I do? I ain't got a dime. I'm poor, I'm black, and all right, I'm poor and white. They're coming after everybody. Medicaid? What about the people and Social Security? Messing with Social Security? What kind of madness is this?
Most of the people on Social Security, most of the people on Medicare, most of the people on food stamps, most of the people on welfare are white.
Right.
In Brooklyn, not just Brooklyn, the majority of people on welfare in New York are not black or Latino. And that has been going on for a
Quite
long time.
Yeah.
All right? So we need to get the stereotypes out of our head.
That's why most white people
and stop
feel
listening
safe.
to the BS that these people are pulling out. And another thing, I was thinking about it, when you say the God in me loves the God in you, that's not true. Because the God of some of these people is not the God we worship.
Well,
Satan is a God to some people.
yeah.
And God doesn't love Satan.
Well,
Understanding,
go back
because
to the basic element of
if
all
you love
humans.
God, there are things that you will not do.
But see, each individual has, the human kit is given the choice of God and the devil. So if you
Right.
choose the devil part of yourself, which Trump has chosen, which people that know that they got a devil in, everybody got a devil in them.
But who's running you?
But who's running your life? The devil in you or the God in you?
Right. So the God in me does not love the God in certain people. That's not true. You don't love, God doesn't love Satan. There is no love relationship between those two, nor the actions of people. And it's the actions of people that God hates. He doesn't hate people. That's why you never hate people. You hate the actions of people. But what is motivating the people
Well, you got a lot
is
of people
what has to
acting
be
like they're
examined.
gods
They're
and-
being motivated by satanic and evil forces. So that spirit is not a spirit that the God in you is embracing. They are working contradictory to each other, which is why we have these social issues.
I reach out to people. When I say the God in me loves the God in you, I reach out to the people that have the God. I don't expect devils to understand what I'm saying to them. I don't expect them to love me back. But you have to understand the devil in all people. Everybody's got a little Satan in them. That's the choice that you get as a human being.
Right.
You choose and sometimes that's a defense against the devil in it. And the devil in me will kick the ass on the devil in anybody else. Now, that's the Marine in me that knows how to be a devil.
No, fighting is not demonic if you're fighting for the right cause and your principles are there.
Well, that's you got to settle in that in your
only
own
a fool
consciousness.
allows somebody to abuse them and mistreat them.
Well, some people.
You know, if God gives you life, your job is to be the steward of your life, to respect your body, to eat the right foods, to maintain the proper habits, and respect the gift of life, which comes from God. So we must respect each other as human beings because God created Donald Trump and he created you and me.
But does Donald Trump do that?
No, he doesn't.
He caters to the
No, he doesn't.
devil in him. It's each individual choice. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, it is a choice.
It's a choice by all humans.
And then you have to decide which team you're going to fight for.
That's it. Now that's through the eyes of elders. What say youth? Ron, are you still there?
He's gone.
He's gone?
He's gone.
He's out?
You and me against the world.
Well, that's good.
You know.
All right.
But
I
Chuck
just want to
Schumer-
run one more video,
Okay.
which I was hoping that Ron would get to see. Now, this is my hero of today, Reverend Sharpton. I've been there 27 years, and I look to him for answers. My pastor on Saturday. Run the video, if you can. We got another 15 minutes.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, the two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born. I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you're very young, You don't know the road I've traveled. They called me everything but a child of God.
A blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing. And I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are, and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that called me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all. I kept going, and the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, the Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor State right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them, now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and the reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that I first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old with the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
Reverend Sharpton. I've been videotaping National Action Network since, Amadou Diallo, 1997. 1997.
99 was Diallo.
I started at Sharpton's in 97. But,
we guarded him over a number of years.
But what I wanted to say about Sharpton is that he is the leader of the civil rights movement, fighting for the rights for DEI, fighting for our history and which way we should be going, and fighting Trump. We've got the battle with Trump from the Central Park Five back in those days. Sharpton's been knowing Trump for 35, 40 years, when Trump was a Democrat.
Right.
And hung out with rich black people.
Right.
He always wanted to be one of the boys. You have to understand this man. He's a New Yorker. His father was a racist, which was in Queens. He wouldn't rent houses to black people, and they were sued for. And he was famous here in New York. I mean, the world didn't get to know Trump until he got on the stage, or when you have to remember what Trump has done. He took the Republican Party and made them look like punks. He stomped and crumbled them with rhetoric, bully. He bullied everybody. You didn't have, now what was he mad about? You have to understand the repercussions of Obama, the first black president. He was the best president this country has ever seen, as far as I'm concerned. But Obama had a problem that black people didn't think he was strong enough, because he had to he was an American president. He wasn't a black president. Or for black people looking for Obama to get us reparations. Well, you have the extremists and black people like everybody else. You had the Muslims and the Christians fighting over what color Christ was. Everybody knows Christ was black. So how is that the worshiping the black man, the white man's religion? Well, if you know anything about history, which most black people don't know,
right?
And they go by the wayside. That's where we suffer from a lack of knowledge.
But Rev, Rev has.
He's from Brooklyn.
Looking back.
He's from Brooklyn too.
When he'd be marching in his sweatsuits.
Yeah.
When
took on the mafia.
Tawana Brawley.
With
that incident.
Oh.
He took a lot of heat on that case. And
yeah.
Thank God for Clemson Brown.
Yeah. Videographer.
Clemson called me and said, we need help. And every day Clemson and I drove to Poughkeepsie to work on that.
What year
with Alton.
What year are we talking?
1995.
95.
So I was working with Alton and also
Alton Maddox.
Alton Maddox, Maddox, Mason, and Sharpton. So
that's right.
There was one day we were doing a press conference in front of the courthouse.
Oh, wow.
And there was a guy there being disruptive, and one of the reporters told him to shut up. Stop acting like a jackass. Shut up. It was a black woman. She said, we're working. So, and I was standing next to this guy, and he was really angry. Who does that black so-and-so think she is? And I'm standing just watching him, and members of the UAM, United African Movement, were there. And I told him, just calm down. But I'm watching this guy, and I noticed he had shotgun shells in the cargo pants that he was wearing. Wow. So he looked at her, and he turned, and he headed across the street. So I took him at gunpoint in the middle of the street.
You were on the force at the time?
No, I was retired. I took him I said, get down on the ground. And I'm pulling the shells out of his pockets because I figure he's going to his car to get something.
Yeah.
He ain't going to get there. So the court officers came running out of the court. New York Times photographers running over. Anyway, took him in the court. Secret Service was in town looking for this guy because he had threatened Bill Clinton. So what Clemson perceived as a problem was real. You had cops that were murdered in Poughkeepsie, and their cases were never solved. not even worked on. But Rev, you know, everybody said that he and Alton and Maddox, Mason, C. Vernon Mason, were propagating a scam. It came out in court that she was raped, that she was sodomized. She had ruptured blood vessels in her pubic area from the physical assault. There was 104 pages of documentation on Tawana Brawley's physical condition that she as a kid could not have fabricated. Even the
she
cop,
was 16 at the time.
15 or 16. And the cop that wound up dead, I was able to prove that he was murdered and he wasn't a suicide. His own family got up in court and came to our side of the courtroom and sat with us because he could not have a Roman Catholic funeral at the time that he died because they purported that he had committed suicide. And the other things that they did to cover up, and the Attorney General of the state of New York, Bob Abrams, all of these people were involved in covering this thing up. So the people don't really know. They think Sharpton was a fraud and Maddox and this was a scam and that Tawana lied. The girl never got her day in court. Because that case was a civil case for libel and slander when it was a New York State Supreme Court justice that said that Stephen Pagonis was a rapist. She said it from her own bench, and she said it before Maddox, Mason, and Sharpton ever said it. But she was not sued. So Reverend Sharpton, we may not have cared for some of his tactics over the years, just as people didn't care for Malcolm and they didn't care for Martin. But that man, and as he has said, people that he was against came to him for help. How am I doing? Not Beam, Mayor, the guy that followed, they named the bridge after him, the 59th Street Bridge. He had to come to Reverend Sharpton and ask him for help.
And
after all the years that he called him a scam.
We have to come to a close, and I'll go back to my beginnings and say the God in me loves the God in you, and seek for that God in you, because that's who we need to reach out to and pray.
The one true
God.
God.
That we can bring out the God-centeredness in all humans and unite and save the day, because we need that. God bless. Power to the people.
Till then.
Till then. Till next week. God bless.